Hi, I'm Scott, and I'm going to demonstrate the OpenSCAD 3D modeling software today. Just a very short demo. I'm using it to model a game board that my father makes using a CNC machine. The actual boards look like this. So you can see there's some holes for marbles to be placed and some text and other little features. Currently it's not completely modeled, but the main area is modeled, and I'm only missing really some lines between some of the circles in the home and the finish area. You can see those lines, and also the details at the corners where you put some magnets to hold multiple boards together. Usually you would put together, say, 4 to 6 boards for a multiplayer game. The 3D modeling software, OpenSCAD, is kind of a programmer's tool, if you will. You model using more code than actual drawing the graphical objects themselves. As you can see here, I've got it open right now, and the board currently looks like what you see here. I've got all the circles on there. I've got the main text down there, and the tool OpenSCAD works pretty well. It's fairly easy to use for the simple stuff. There's some things I'm still trying to figure out that are take a little more research on how to do it through this tool. As far as the actual, what does the code look like, you can see here I set up a number of variables to kind of simplify changes and kind of prototyping different things with some comments. It has some interesting ways to create vectors, which are one of the main types that it uses. You can see here where I'm setting up some vector information, and it kind of works from a kind of an inside out. You nest basically various types of functions to produce the graphical output. So if you go down here, you'll see the main square, which is this part of the board here is the main square, and then you have a polygon, which is basically this area here, and the translate takes the polygon in this case from its original coordinates, default coordinates, and moves it into the desired location. And then if you go up higher here, you'll see I have some offsets. These are really rounding the corners off in all cases here. And after that, you see an extrude. Well, if you notice, I'm using square and polygon, and those are 2D operations. So the extrude takes the 2D initial starting representation and turns it into the 3D structure, which you can see, I have depth here. And after that extrude operation, you can see I've got a difference wrapping things. Well, what the difference does is this set of operations here creates the main board area, and then I have the holes which need to be created in the text. So what I do is go through and I create spheres for the holes, and I raise them into a location so that basically half of the sphere is inside the material. So when the difference occurs, it leaves this hole, and that's how you produce the holes. I've got little subsections for the main holes, and I've got basically a little section for lines of, in this case, the 3 holes and the 2 holes. The finish was a little different since to fit them in the space desired, I needed to, I couldn't put them in a straight line. So I actually there have to do a little bit of math here. I basically model this as kind of like part of a sine wave, if you will. So the top half of a sine wave, and locate it there, basically from the second hole here to the fifth hole. I use as sort of key points, and after that you get more down into the text handling. So the text handling starts off as 2D, and I translate that into its locations, and then I extrude it a little bit. So it had a little trouble with the text when you don't explicitly extrude it. It kind of wants to extrude on its own for some reason. I'm not sure why, but by explicitly giving it the exact location and depth, I avoid some problems there. And if I want to do the lettering, on a CNC machine, I can do that fairly easily. So in this case, you can see I've got explicit output here for translating and sending out the text for the finish and for the home and for the Joker text here. And you can see how, for each of these pieces of text, I'm doing an extrude. And in the case of the Joker text, I set an explicit font and raise the size a little bit. Again, overall, it's not too hard to use. Really, the only parts I'm not sure on is doing the lines as on the real Joker board within the home and the finish. The direction of those lines, I need to figure out how to define those without too much effort. So, and we'll try that, and then do the work where I set up where the magnets are located at. So there needs to be some stuff there yet, but otherwise the board's complete. Well, thank you for listening.